What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Taking the Points, featuring Jay Gruden, JJ Gruden, and myself. Jay, what's going on, man? How was your week?
Jay or JJ, everything's good with me. Played a lot of golf. That's about it.
JJ?
Over under 6 strokes, over par.
Under.
Yeah, really. Damn.
Who's the better golfer between the two? Which one?
Take a wild guess.
I would say you.
Thank you. Good guess.
Well, he's got the time to do it. He's not doing anything right now.
We have a full NFC betting preview for you guys today. But before we get started, we had a lot of requests. We wanted to go over some Bengals stuff with Jay for his time as an offensive coordinator in Cincy, as well as some Washington stuff. So we got a clip from his time in Hard Knocks in Cincinnati. So we're going to go ahead and run that clip for you, and then we'll ask Jay about it right now, but let's roll it.
It's okay to have your eyes on superstar wide receiver A.J. Green, but your hands are an absolute no-no.
We don't touch the merchandise ever.
Merchandise go get touched. Merchandise
By you, not without Pat.
Merchandise coming this way, it's gonna get touched. Okay, I like touch
Our
merchandise.
future relies on this motherfucker.
I'm not gonna kill him, but I ain't gonna let him get his job done.
Just relax.
I ain't gonna kill him, but I ain't gonna let him get his job done, because that means I ain't doing mine. Understand?
Relax.
Understand? Do we understand each other? That's all I need to know.
We do.
All right.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry. But seriously, don't hurt this motherfucker.
I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt you. Well, I gotta make sure I get my job done.
It's okay.
So walk us through that, Jay. Walk us through that. What was that like? It seemed like he didn't like what you had to say. Walk us through it.
No, James was playing. He's a bully, but he's a good guy. He's a very tough, physical guy, but he knew deep down inside. He knew the cameras were rolling, trying to give me a hard time. And he also knew that A.J. Green was the future of our team, and we needed A.J. But James was like he was like that actor on Friday. Remember that movie? What was his name? The Bully.
Yeah. You just got nothing to look out.
Yeah. That's who he was like. But that was good times. We had a great time in Cincinnati, and James was a great player, but A.J. was the man.
Yeah, so what was it like being able to be the offensive coordinator for A.J. Green? I mean, as a Browns fan growing up, watching him, shred us twice a year, he was electric. So what was it like to be able to be his offensive coordinator? Because, again, he was a fantastic receiver. Yeah, I mean, he was we got him as a rookie. We got him and Andy Dalton as a rookie. Then we drafted Marvin Jones. He was young. Most knew was young. Giovanni was new. Eifert was young. But A.J. Green had a different skill set than everybody. He was long. He could run. He was very athletic. He could change direction on a dime. The key was to try to get him to move around and get him to learn the system. He came from Georgia. They didn't do a whole lot of Georgia. I tried to do a lot of things formationally for him. It took a little bit of time, but once he got it, by the time I had him in year 3, he had a breakout year, year 2 and 3, and he was a dominant player. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure Andy Dalton loved throwing to him. I mean, we know he did, right? Based on the numbers that they put up. I'd have to tell Andy in the headset sometimes, throw it to AJ no matter what. I didn't care if he was double covered or triple, just throw it to him, because he would play. He was the best ball tracker. Other than Deshaun Jackson, he was the best ball tracker I've seen. Yeah, I mean, there was one highlight, a vivid memory already pops up, I think it was a Hail Mary that he threw against my Cleveland Browns. It was in Cincy, just launched it up, and of course, A.J. Green went up and got it. So he was electric. Do you have a favorite memory as your offensive coordinator in Cincy, whether it's a locker room moment, whether it was a game? Do you have a favorite moment that's off the top of your head that you can name? I think, our last year there in 2013, I think we had a chance to win a Super Bowl. Other than the fact that we lost the ball, or we played Baltimore week 17, and they had to win to get in. They're defending Super Bowl champs, and we beat the crap out of each other. And we had to play at a short week against San Diego, and we lost to San Diego. We lost Tyler Eifert in that game. We lost a couple of our key components on offense. But I think overall, just the growing process with those guys. Like I said, we drafted, on the offensive line, Clint Bowling and Kevin Zeitler. We had Andrew Whitworth, who's a veteran type guy. We drafted Eifert. We had Gresham, who's a young player. We had Andrew Hawkins, who's young, Mo Sanu, Marvin Jones, A.J. Green, Andy Dalton was young, Giovanni Bernard. Just all those guys and all those cast of characters are very young, but worked extremely hard. Were great guys and great fun to coach. I hated to leave, actually, but, you had to go to be head coach and get a little bit more money. 100%. I mean, you can't blame you, right? Going to Washington, head coach there for several years. Before we got on live, JJ and I were talking, and we want to run a little game with you real quick. We have the list here. Again, we followed you a lot in Washington, obviously, with JJ being your son. Can you name every starting quarterback that played a game for you during your time there? Can you name every single one?
At Washington?
In Washington, yes.
Robert Griffin, Kirk Cousins, Colt McCoy, Josh Johnson, Mark Sanchez, Alex Smith, Case Keenum.
Crazy.
Wayne Haskins did not start for me. I think that should be about it, right?
Yep.
Pretty impressive,
That is
yeah.
100%. And what is it like as a head coach? Again, I'm putting Cleveland in a reference here. It's funny because the comparison is so real. As we know, Cleveland's been going through the quarterback carousel for forever. As a head coach, how taxing and how hard is it to continue to go through quarterbacks left and right and not have that consistency year after year? Like in the NFL today, you see some of these powerhouses they have year after year. So how hard is it to keep going through quarterbacks, especially being the head coach?
Well, that's why I'm sitting here and not coaching. If you have issues at quarterback, you're not going to be coaching for long. I mean, you look at the history of the NFL.
Yep.
When we lost Alex Smith and then Colt McCoy the following week, it was pretty much a wrap. And then we tried to put a Band-Aid on the situation by going out and getting Case Keenum, who's a good veteran type quarterback, good backup type guy, can win in some games. He won some games at Minnesota. And we drafted Dwayne, but we never got it right after the injuries. After we lost Kirk, got nothing for him. Now we got Alex and he broke his leg. I'm out of a job.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's harsh.
Yeah, we were 6-3 with Alex. Alex was pretty good. I mean, we were a 2-game lead of division when he broke his leg. We're going to beat Houston. We're going to go to 7-3. And unfortunately, it was a terrible freak injury. Injuries,
I always say, are the worst thing that can happen in sports. And as you mentioned, if you have, especially at the quarterback position, you're pretty much doomed. But let's get into the NFC betting preview. And before we do, JJ, what the hell was going on in the Hall of Fame game, man? What happened with those bets?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I was kind of pissed off that you didn't play the one clip. Dad, we're trying to find it, and we're going to bring it back, and we're going to show it. That one rant that you had about the OTAs and Hard Knocks, Mickey Mouse horse shit. I'm trying to bring that so we can go ahead and talk about that, use that as the adjective to describe how my bets went on Thursday night, because that's going to be perfect. We're going to play that audio. That's what you call Mickey Mouse horse shit football right there, because that's how it was. I don't know what happened there. I mean, Zach Wilson, we kind of knew what was going to happen there when he came in. He had one nice throw that Aaron Rodgers called. We saw that all over the place. And then, the Browns came out and did what they had to do in the second half. DTR looked awesome. He looked great. And Dad, I don't know how you feel, but did you watch any of that game? Watch Thomas Robinson play at all?
A little bit, yeah. I was going in and out, sleeping. Those games are kind of hard to watch unless you have an over/under on it. You're sweating down the wire. Of course, I told you to take the over, but you didn't listen.
All right, took the under. You just said go opposite. Just go the over.
Jay also took the Brownies. He said Brownies, and they won too, so he would have been 2 for 2.
2-0. I better quit now.
Yeah, quit while you're ahead.
Let's get into the NFC, guys. Again, last week was AFC. This week's NFC. We'll start in the NFC North. We have the Lions, Vikings, Bears, Packers. The Lions are the favorites to win that division at plus 135. JJ, I'm going to start with you here, man. Again, as you guys know, taking the points on Twitter. He's active. He's going through bets daily. He's got the golf bets. He's talking futures in the NFL, especially in the NFC. Are you a believer in the Lions coming out on top and winning that division at plus 135?
I can't say it out loud, but it's one of those things where you want to root for the Lions and hope that they win the division because of all the pain that they put their fans through the last 25 years or so. And you want them to win, you root for them, but it's just hard for me just to say out loud that I think that they're going to win the NFC North because I don't think they do. I think they find a way to blow it in some way, shape, or form. They got a tough schedule. And looking at the NFC North totally, you still got the Vikings in there with a great offense. You still have, you have Justin Fields coming in with an upgraded offensive line and a couple receivers on his side of the ball to get some weapons. And then, of course, you have the Green Bay Packers, who I don't think anyone should write them off. I know they lost Aaron Rodgers, but that defense is still intact. Christian Watson, he's looking good in training camp right now. I think he's going to have a freakish year. I think he's going to really, have a really step up this year. It's hard to really say that the Lions are going to win. If I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm not going to be taking the Lions to win the division, no.
What were your thoughts when they put him in week 1 against the Chiefs? What were your thoughts? Because I was shocked. I mean, again, they had a great finish to the year last year. But putting them up in week 1 against the Chiefs is a tall task, especially on the road.
Who?
The Lions play the Chiefs week 1.
Oh yeah,
the season.
I mean, that one's tough. So what? The spread's like what, 7.5 that game? I mean,
it's
gonna be tough. I mean, it's an entertaining game. I mean, I think the whole country is behind the Lions. So I mean, it's gonna be good for viewership and all that. But I just don't think the Lions have a chance. I do think they cover. From whatever I've had some bad beats in the Lions. I don't know if Dan Campbell knows the spreads or what, but he does some things where I scratch my head and I'm like, why would you kick a field goal with a minute and a half left after you burned all your timeouts? You got to kick the ball off anyway. You're not going to, I just don't understand some of it. Falcons and Lions 2 years ago was one of the worst beats I've ever had. And it was one of the most questionable calls I've ever seen. But anyway, no, I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good, entertaining game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one. But I just think the Chiefs get the job done.
I'm with you, and I'm also with you. I'm not sold that the Lions win that division of plus 135. Again, we can never discredit the Vikings. And Kirk Cousins, he's a solid quarterback. Justin Jefferson, we all know how good they are. Losing Dalvin Cook is going to hurt, no doubt. And their offense is going to drop a little bit in production, but I think it's going to get picked up by other guys. Jay, what are your thoughts on the NFC North? Are you a believer in the Lions to take that division, or are you with JJ as well?
I think it'll be a lot more competitive than people think. I don't think the Lions are a shoe-in by any stretch of the imagination. I still think defensively they're going to be hurting a little bit. Hutchinson's going to have a better year. If they can play with the lead a little bit, he'll get more sacks. But I'm not a believer in their corners. Their secondary is okay. Offensively, David Montgomery, I do love the draft pick in Gibbs. I think he's going to be a superstar out of the backfield. I think he's going to be Alvin Kamara-like. He's going to be very explosive, very friendly target for Jared Goff. He'll create a lot of major mismatches with the linebackers in NFC East and everywhere else. They got a great offensive line. That's one thing they do have. They signed the tight end, the rookie tight end, Laporta from Iowa. I think he's a good player. He's a good receiver, good blocker. So they have some weapons. St. Brown obviously is a great player. Jared Goff proved that he is continuing to mature as a quarterback and one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So with that being said, offensively, they will be competitive. Defensively is where I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, they avoided disaster with the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury. He went down early in camp, non-contact knee. Everybody thought the worst, and it's not. He's back on the field. He's back in camp, which is great to see because he was a big, defensive in that backfield, in that secondary acquisition from the Eagles in the offseason. But so then, Jay, that leads me to the question. Over-under for them is 9.5 total wins this year. Over-under for them, 9.5.
Lions, I'll probably stick with the under on that one. I think 9 wins, 8 wins. I just don't like playing anybody getting 10 or more wins in that division. I think it's very competitive. They're very equal. The Lions have a tough schedule, and, it's going to be tough. One injury here to a quarterback, and they're going to struggle. But that is one that I probably wouldn't play, but if I did, I'd play the under.
JJ, what about you?
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I think when you compare divisions throughout the NFL, this is one that just kind of looks like the AFC South, in my opinion. I think the winning team is going to be like a 9-8 team. Whoever wins that division, it's going to be. It's just like you said. It's going to be. You give me a look there, Jay Bird. What was that all about?
The only good thing is they do play the NFC South, which is down this year, right? And they do have 2 games against the Bears, and they got 2 games against the Packers, or without Aaron Rodgers, and obviously Minnesota, whose defense could be very, very poor this year again. So I'm going to flip and say the over for the Lions. They're 3 games out of conference. They still have to play Baltimore, Seattle, and I think Dallas. Dallas. So those are 3 tough games. But being that they have 6 games in that division, they should be able to win at least 4. They should be able to win 3 games in the South. That's 7. And they'll steal a couple more.
Last second flip from Jay. JJ, are you flipping? Or are you going to you're staying under?
No, it's the freaking Detroit Lions at the end of the day. I don't see them being a 10-win team. There's no way I can say and be confident in them winning the division or being a 10-win team. I said it last year. I get a tattoo on my ass if they won 11 games. And I actually made that comment to somebody, and they reposted it everywhere. And I was getting kind of nervous there at the end when they were going on that win streak. But luckily, they dug themselves too big of a hole.
That poor tattoo artist would have nightmares.
Minnesota isn't. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, JJ.
No, I wouldn't take the Lions over win total. I wouldn't take them to win the division. I still like the Packers this year.
Minnesota is another interesting team in this division, especially with their over/under. Again, all odds are provided by BetJack. Their over/under is 8.5 total wins this year. The Vikings, their over is -121 and their under is -103. I think the Vikings can win 9 games. Jay, what about you?
Again,
They're going to be floating right around it. All
NFC
these
South, AFC West. They still have to play Cincinnati, the Eagles, and San Francisco as well. That is going to be tough.
It's tough.
And defensively, they're going to a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, Brian Flores. He's going to be ultra aggressive. I don't think they have the corners to hold up. And I don't think they have the defensive personnel to get the pressure they need to get. They're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins, which I'm sure he'll do fine. But the offensive line, I don't think can hold up if they're playing from behind all the time. I think it'll be a long year for Minnesota with that schedule and that defense.
I was going to say they're going to have to put up at least like 27 or more points a game in order for them to keep up and win football games. It's going to be tough. And to be honest with you, man, I said the Buffalo Bills wouldn't make the playoffs last week. I think the Minnesota Vikings finished last in their division this year. I really do.
Over the Bears and the Packers, really? You think the Bears finished
crazy? Yeah, I do. I really do. There was a lot of
Wow.
coin flip games last year, a lot of single possession games that the Vikings won that could have flipped the other way. Now they have less defensive talent on that side of the ball. I just don't. Kirk Cousins is going into his contract year. It might look a different direction. Who knows? We don't know what that situation is going to be like.
Jay, I was just going to ask you, so if Kirk Cousins struggles this year and the Vikings struggle this year, do you think they go in a different direction after these several years with Kirk Cousins in essentially nothing to show for it? I know they've had success, but as far as, winning a ring or anything, nothing to show for it. If they struggle this year, do you think that's it for Kirk Cousins in Minnesota?
Well, it could be. I think it depends on the free agent market. However, we talk about the bottom half of the league and the quarterback issues that they have. Once you have a quarterback that is established like Kirk Cousins, you want to hang on to him until you get somebody who drafts a guy that maybe can take his place, like when Kansas City had Alex Smith and they were fortunate enough to get Patrick Mahomes and they made the move. That's what I would recommend. Don't get rid of him until you know you have a known commodity in your building, because Kirk has done some great things in the National Football League for a lot of years.
100%. JJ, this is an interesting one. Let's shift to the Bears. Staying in the division, though. Are you a Justin Fields believer or not? It seems like it's the number one talk of the town right now, obviously in Chicago, but as well as on NFL Twitter, on NFL talk shows. Is Justin Fields, again, last year, you can give him a pass if you want. They didn't have pieces around him. They had a lot of cap space in the offseason. They put some pieces around him now. Is this a year where Justin Fields takes the next step?
I think he does take a next step. And I mean, I followed Ohio State football quite a bit. They're one of the teams I watch a lot of. And I think Justin Fields is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback that Ohio State has had in the last 20 years. And I feel like he's got the talent around him now to actually do something. They did upgrade in the offensive line, buy him some more time. So hopefully with the pieces with DJ Moore, I think that they can do something there. I really like Justin Fields. He has a high rushing yard total over this season. It's like 855.5 yards. Crazy high. I've never seen it that high for a quarterback. I'm not sure what Mike Vick was or what Lamar Jackson's was a couple years ago, but that seems pretty high. And I think that's very telling to see how the season's going to go for him.
Jay, what about you? Are you a Justin Fields believer? Does he take the next step this year?
I think he's fun to watch, that's for sure. But next step in regards to being more of a passer, no. I think he's going to struggle. I don't think they have the weapons. I know they added DJ Moore and Chase Claypool. They still got Mooney. I still don't think those three are that dominant of receivers. I think they're tight ends. Cole Kmet is a very average receiving tight end, in my opinion. The running backs, they lose David Montgomery. They go to Khalil Herbert. So I don't know where they're going to get these explosive plays from down the field. They're going to rely on the running game. I don't know if their offensive line is good enough. I don't think they've upgraded that much. They got a rookie tackle. I don't know if he's good enough or not. I just don't think this is a long process for a quarterback to develop. For him to turn into a better quarterback from year one to year two, I think is a long shot. He's going to have his splash plays and exciting plays, but over the course of 17 games, I still think there'll be a struggle bus big time.
I'm with you. I'm not buying the Justin Fields hype myself. This division, again, is so interesting because the Packers have the worst odds in terms of betting to win the division, but they're only plus 400. So it is very tight all throughout. You look at some of the other divisions, the Commanders at the bottom at plus 1,300, the Cardinals at plus 2,500. And even going back to last week in the NFC betting preview, again, some of the divisions are tight, but as far as betting goes, this is probably one of the tightest ones. Then to finish it off, like I mentioned, you have the Packers over-under is at 7.5. I like Jordan Love. I'm excited to see him this year. We've seen some cool camp clips so far. Aaron Rodgers in the few, segments he's had talking at the Hall of Fame game last year, how excited he is for Jordan Love to get his chance. Jay, what are your thoughts on Jordan Love and the Packers over under, currently sitting at 7.5?
I think it's going to be a tough year for the Packers, personally. I know they have a decent defense coming back. Joe Barry's back again, but I just think offensively, losing Aaron Rodgers, they struggled offensively with Aaron Rodgers, who's a Hall of Famer. They're going to struggle this year with Jordan Love, in my opinion. I think, Christian Watson, Dubes, and Daubs, whatever his name is, they got another rookie receiver. They do have 2 excellent running backs that they're going to have to rely heavily on. For them to be successful, they have to run the ball, get Jordan Love outside the pocket, run the ball, play great defense, and win close games 20-17 and kick field goals when they have to. If you think they're going to be explosive and match teams touchdown for touchdown, there's not a chance in hell. So play great defense, run the ball, eat up the clock, shorten the game, and try to win games in the fourth quarter.
JJ, are you a Packers believer at all? Are you a Jordan Love believer? Or are you not feeling it?
I mean, I think they're going to win the division. I'm going total opposite of what this guy's saying. So now I don't even know what to think anymore. It's never good to be on the opposite side of a coach. But you know what? I'm still going to take them to win the division. I think that they have enough talent on offense. I think Christian Watson's going to take that next step. We saw flashes of Romeo Dubes, Dubois, whatever you want to call him. I call him Dubois just because it sounds French. I also like Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon's going to have to make his money this year. He's a free agent next year. Look for him to get involved a lot. Matt LaFleur's going to have to make his money too this year. He's going to have to make some play calls and play designs to get these guys open and cater to Jordan Love's strengths. And I think he's capable of doing so. Again, it's going to be a division that you can beat up on other teams. And if they can win those close coin flip games like the Minnesota Vikings did last year, which if it comes down the wire, I think that they can get the job done with their experience.
I'm going to have to track the division standings all year and as we continue the show throughout this NFL season, because like you just mentioned, you guys are like flip-flopped on every single pick for this division. So we're going to have to track it all year long. I wrote it down. I got a mental note as well. So it's going to be fun. Let's move to the NFC East. This is another division for me that I find very interesting, particularly because of 2 quarterbacks, and those 2 quarterbacks being Dak Prescott as well as the Giants quarterback, Daniel Jones. Drawing a blank there. Well, let's start with the Eagles. They're minus 125. The favorites to win the division. Their over-under is 11.5. JJ, I'm coming back to you. As we know, Jalen Hurts really took the next step, a beautiful step last year. I forget who it was. Somebody just mentioned that he had one of the best performances a Super Bowl quarterback has ever put on. How are you feeling about the Eagles?
They're a good football team. They got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. They got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. The one thing I want to say about the Eagles to all the Eagle fans out there, Jalen Hurts, there was just that poll that was made by all the players, and Jalen Hurts was the number 3 player in the whole league. There's no chance you can put him against Joe Burrow. I don't think he's in the top 3. That's just blasphemy to me. But I do like their team. I just think they have a lot of talent. Their schedule is a little easier this year. I really think they can go ahead and go 7-1 in the first 8 games. They definitely have the strength of schedule, catered to them. So give me the Eagles over 11.5 wins.
I like the over as well. I think they can win 12. Jay, what about you?
Yeah, they don't have a weakness on their football team at all. Their offensive line's outstanding. Tight end's good. The only weakness I see really is they don't really have a big, powerful back. If you're going to say Rashad Penny, maybe, but DeAndre Swift is little, Gainwell is little. They don't have a guy to get those tough yards unless you count Jalen Hurts. I mean, they can't stop his quarterback sneak, so they don't really need a big back. So defensively, they got the pass rush. The only thing I'm concerned about, they're getting a little bit older, Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, but they still got Darius Slay and Bradbury at corner. They got a great nickel back in Maddox. I really think that they are top to bottom the most well-rounded football team in the league, in the NFC for sure.
Yeah, they have a fantastic team. And again, last year they fell just short in the Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, one of my least favorite quarterbacks in the league. I think people have been counting on him for too long. He's overhyped. Today, he threw 2 more interceptions in camp to Trayvon Diggs. JJ, are the Cowboys ever going to move on from Dak Prescott, especially again this year if he struggles? Because you got to think at some point, if he can't win football games and take this team pretty far in the playoffs, they got to move on from him at some point, right?
I mean, yeah, I think so. But I mean,
they have
a tough
to.
Team to beat this year. Yeah, I mean,
Go to Cooper Rush.
I do think they do. What?
You can go to Cooper Rush if you want to.
I mean, I have them finishing 8-9 this year. They have a tougher schedule as well. I'm not sure where they're at on the defensive side of the ball. I know they got Micah Parsons. That's a tough guy to guard, but again, I feel like the Cowboys are going to have a downgressing year this year. They're going to go 8-9. I got them finishing third in the division overall, and I don't know what's going to happen to Dak after that. Then,
Yeah, I mean, their over-under is 9.5, so you're definitely taking the under. Their over, interesting enough, is -167 to go over 9.5 to win 10 games. Jay, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys?
I like the Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott gets a lot of he gets criticized quite a bit, deservedly so for his interceptions, but he's still a pretty good quarterback. He's big, he can run. They added Brandon Cooks, which will help. I really like what they did on defense, getting Stephon Gilmore to go across the digs. I think that's a 2 top corner combination right there to have the pass rush with Lawrence and Micah Parsons. I mean, that defense is pretty good. Van Der Esch is getting a little bit older at linebacker. I get that. They did get the nose guard from Michigan, who's a really good nose guard, a great run stopper. So they got the ability to stop the run internally. When teams have to pass, they got the pass rush to get there, and they got the cover corners to make plays. So I think when you add a great defense to offense, I know they lost Zeke, but they got Tony Pollard, and they still got, they got CeeDee Lamb, and they got Brandon Cooks. Worried about the tight end. I don't like them lose. I don't like teams that lose tight ends. Dalton Schultz, a good player. I don't know who their tight end is now, actually. I'm a little concerned about that because Dak really relies on the tight end over the course of his career, and I don't know who their tight end is. But I do think the Cowboys have the talent and the defense to match up against everybody except probably Philadelphia.
Okay, I was just going to ask if you think you can match up with Philadelphia. Again, there's not a lot of teams in the NFL that can, as you just mentioned. They are one of the better rounded teams in all of football. The Giants.
Jake Ferguson from Iowa, that's who they got. But he's a good tight end. But they can play with, I mean, especially when you go to Dallas. Philadelphia comes to Dallas. I mean, that's a tough place to play.
Yep.
So those games will be tight. It depends on who protects the ball. So I do think they can match up. I think they can get pressure on Hurts, which is critical. They have the ability to cover the 2 receivers outside. And they have physicality to match up front with the powerful offensive line of Philly.
To your point, growing up, one of my favorite Sunday Night Football matchups that was on when it was on every year was always Cowboys-Eagles. It was a fantastic matchup. Love when they're in prime time. Daniel Jones and those Giants. Interesting enough, again, as we know, he got that big contract extension this offseason. Over-under is currently at 7.5. The over sitting at -106, and the under sitting at -118. Jay, thoughts on Daniel Jones and those New York Giants?
He's one of my favorite guys to talk about as far as when you give a guy time to develop in a system. I know Dayball came in new, but a quarterback time to develop and play and actually take the hits and learn from those mistakes, see coverages, and continue to get better in OTAs and training camp. Daniel's a great example of that. Kirk Cousins is another one. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that struggled early in their careers that are continuing to get better and better and better, and Daniel's doing that. And I think adding Darren Waller will help him a lot. They got 2 tight ends that can really hurt you, Bellinger and Darren Waller. Slayton's going to have to step up in a big way. And obviously Saquon Barkley will be the bell cow still. But the ability that they can hurt you inside out with Waller and Bellinger and then have Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, I think they get a chance to be a good offense.
Yeah, I love that they got Barkley back. And again, Darren Waller, I'm with you, is going to be huge for them. And again, and helping out Daniel Jones a lot. JJ, thoughts on the Giants again? Over-unders at 7.5.
I'm so excited for this team. I think they're going to go way over. I think they finish second in the division. They make the playoffs again. I love Jalen Hyatt. They drafted him. He's going to be a burner. They got him. They got Darren Waller now. Saquon Barkley can do a lot with him. Offensively, they're going to be good. Defensively, they were hanging in ball games as well. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be hard to compete with the Eagles and with the Cowboys as well. But if they can win those out of conference games, they'll be all right. And I think they do so. I think they finish out 10-7. And Daniel Jones, you see the building blocks still progress, and he's that quarterback for the future.
I am worried about their defense. I believe they have 2 rookie corners, if I'm not mistaken, that are going to have to play a lot. And that's asking a lot of a rookie to come in here and cover the likes of some of these guys, with Eagles or the Eagles and the Cowboys and all that. So that's where I'm concerned about. I do like the fact that they have Graham Gano, a great kicker. So if it is a close game, he'll knock in the field goals. But defensively, Wink Martindale's got his work cut out for him because they don't have a great pass rush, and they have rookie corners.
Jay, as a former NFL head coach as well as offensive coordinator, as we've mentioned several times now, how important is it to have a good kicker on your team? We've seen teams that struggle, again, referencing the Browns. They haven't had a good kicker in years. Phil Dawson, we miss him so much in Cleveland. How important, how much, like for the Ravens, for example, when you have Justin Tucker, he's a game changer. I don't think people really understand and value how important it is to have a good NFL kicker on your team.
Well, how I failed to refer to Justin Tucker when I was talking about the Ravens is a travesty. I mean, it is a huge weapon to have. I mean, when you go to bed at night as a coach and you're thinking about making a 45-yard field goal to win it in the wind or the rain, you can sleep well with Justin Tucker. So, yeah, you got to have a good kicker. So many of these games come down to within a field goal, 2-3 points here and there, field goals at the end of the half. I mean, these are huge points. And to have a good kicker, good reliability, guy can kick the ball through the end zone on kickoffs is important, and squib it down there if he has to. Kickers are way underrated.
I 100% agree. And it's cool to hear from somebody like you on NFL kickers because, again, they're a huge deal. The Washington Commanders, I'm going to start with you, Jay. Again, coming from that Washington organization, things have changed. Obviously, as we know, new leadership, new ownership. Sam Howell is going to be under center for them. Under a 6.5. The over is -106. The under is -118. How are you feeling about the Commanders this year, Jay?
Well, they're going to struggle. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We just mentioned 3 damn good teams in our division, right? The Giants are going to play better. Cowboys are ultra talented on defense and have some skill on offense, and the Eagles are the best well-rounded team in the NFL. So that's 6 games right there they're going to struggle with, especially with a second-year quarterback who's played 1 game. So, yeah, they're going to struggle. Their offensive line is shaky. They do have 3 pretty good receivers. They got Logan Thomas at tight end, obviously Brian Robinson at running back. So they got some weapons. But to ask Sam Howell to go into Philadelphia, go into Dallas, beat the Giants at the Giants, and play all these other teams they have to play in the AFC East. I mean, they have to play the AFC East. They're not – so that's 4 more games that are going to be a struggle for them. And the NFC West. So that's another 4 games, except for Arizona, maybe they're going to struggle. So if you're taking the under or if you're making that bet, I would play the under in that game, unfortunately, because I did coach there. It's just going to be tough because they have the most inexperienced quarterback, and that's going to hurt them.
Do you think there's a chance they go 0-6 in their division this year? Again, having the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants, is there a shot they go 0-6, or do you think they win a game no matter what?
Oh, there's a chance for sure. We just mentioned the Dallas is good. They got 2 great corners, a great defense, and a great pass rush. And obviously Dak Prescott. The Eagles are talented, and the Giants are getting better and better. I think the Giants they have a chance with. I don't think they have a chance to beat the Cowboys or the Eagles.
Wow. So there's 0-4 right there. JJ, what are your thoughts?
I think there's going to be one game, though. There's going to be one game where they ruin somebody's survivor pool or whatever. They go into enemy territory and pick up a game. I don't know what it is.
Sam Howell did beat Dallas last year with his only game that nobody thought.
That was a look-ahead game. That doesn't count.
It's still, they did beat them. So there is
beat them. But they
you
were
say there's a chance
ahead for the playoffs. They didn't care. That's so funny that everyone's like baking on that game. Oh, he beat the Cowboys, but they are looking elsewhere. One of the best bets that I do love for the upcoming season with the Washington Commanders is Brian Robinson's over rushing yards. I don't know why it's so low. I'm sure that Antonio Gibson's going to be involved quite a bit, but this guy got 21 carries average over his last 8 games, and his over-under rushing yards this year is 675.5. That is so low, and for a big guy like that, I feel like he's going to still be abused and get the ball like 15 times plus a game. I feel like that total is so low, and I think they hit that over easy. But when you talk about the win total, it's going to go under for sure.
Well, I think when you talk about Brian Robinson, though, just remember who the offensive coordinator is for the Commanders now. It's Eric Bieniemy. They don't do a whole lot of downhill running style game at Kansas City. They're more of a spread RPO type team, spread people out, try to get the guy out in space. They like the Jerick McKinnons of the world that can get open out down the field. So I would err towards the under for Brian Robinson personally.
But how does that affect you when you have a quarterback like Sam Howell and you don't know if he can throw the football? I mean, do you have to like cater to the run game? Going back to the run game though, in that case, like after 3 games,
RPOs and zone reads are good. I think if I was playing it over, I'd take what's his name, the backup Antonio Gibson. I think he's going to be great for Eric Bieniemy. He can catch the ball, you get out, he can line up and empty. He can do a lot of different things. I think he's more of Eric Bieniemy's style. Personally, I could be dead wrong. He could change style tomorrow and line up an I formation and run it 45 times up the middle. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they have a tight end to do that. They definitely don't have a fullback that can do that. Their offensive line is not built like that. They're more, you got to spread people out and try to get them out in space and be space players. and get the ball
Guys,
to
I'm not gonna
Curtis
lie. I'm
Samuel.
not
Get the
gonna
ball
lie.
to Watson.
I wish we had this show a little while ago or 2 days ago before I made that Brian Robinson bet.
Jay, as an offensive coordinator, you just mentioned Eric Bieniemy, again, the new offensive coordinator in Washington. Is the pressure, again, for the first year, he played one game last year, Sam Howell did. Is the pressure more on in the first year on Eric Bieniemy to have success? Again, they're going to struggle no matter what, but is the pressure more on Eric Bieniemy or more on Sam Howell to have success in that offense in year one for essentially both?
I think the pressure's on the entire organization. I got a new owner. The entire staff has a lot of pressure on him because no telling what this owner wants. So Sam Howell needs to show progress, that he has a chance to become an elite NFL starting quarterback. If that happens, then everybody will sleep well in Washington and they'll last another year, 2, 3, 4 years possibly. If they struggle and go 3-14 or what have you, then the whole entire organization could get blown up. So it's that you can say that about every team in the NFL right now too, except for Kansas City and probably New England. But so it's a very tough year for them. It's a very pressure-filled year for Ron Rivera and Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell. A lot to be proven on the field.
And again,
I got the script right here. I got the script of what's going to happen this season. The Redskins or the Commanders, they finish with only 2 wins. They go after the DC native Caleb Williams. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be the first overall pick. They add a new quarterback next year. Just watch.
Ooh, 2 wins. Caleb Williams is going to be special. I'll tell you what, watch him in college. He's going to be fantastic. I love the take. Let's go to the NFC West, where we've got the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Cardinals. The 49ers are the favorites of -189, but I'm going to go to you here, Jay. Again, we saw Brock Purdy last year, and again, I think there's a lot of credit that is deserving to Kyle Shanahan. But are we sold on Brock Purdy? Their quarterback room, again, if you want to say it's not a mess, that's fine. Whoever, any viewer that's out there, if there's a 49ers fan. But again, you have Brock Purdy, you have Trey Lance, who has reportedly looked bad again in camp this year, and then you have Sam Darnold that you add into the mix. So we know how good of a defense they have. They have George Kittle, they have Deebo Samuel, they have weapons all across the board. Brandon Ayuk. But are we sold on that quarterback situation? And are we absolutely sold, Jay, that they're going to be good again this year?
I'm not. No, I think defensively they're pretty good. Offensively, they got great weapons in McCaffrey. You mentioned them all already in Kittle. They got the best left tackle in the history of football. They got weapons. But you mentioned the quarterback. Purdy doesn't move very well. He is accurate. He's coming off an injury. I am concerned about him. I'm concerned about losing McGlinchey, a right tackle. You know, it's hard to replace some of these pro bullish type offensive linemen with just a run-of-the-mill offensive tackle. You know, and internally offensive line, they're not as good as they used to be, in my opinion. So that's a concern for me. But Brock Purdy does have the ability to get the ball out quickly, make his quick reads, and throw the ball accurately, which is imperative for Kyle Shanahan run offense. Pressing the ball down the field is where they struggle. His athleticism, they lose a lot with that. That's where he'll struggle. But his efficiency, quick decision-making is good. But I can see Sam Darnold making a run, actually. I mean, this guy given an opportunity in a pretty good system, his ability to run and throw the ball deep down the field could push him a little bit. Trey Lance, I don't know enough about Trey Lance. I think that if he was as good as people said he was coming out, he'd already been playing. So I think it's Purdy and Darnold who are competing for that starting job. If Purdy obviously continues to get better, show he's healthy, he'll win it. And then if he struggles, they'll go to Darnold.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun battle to watch because I'm going to be interested to see how long they actually give Purdy if he struggles. Again, taking into consideration that if you look past the quarterback room in San Francisco, the roster is pretty damn complete all across the board. I even forgot to mention Christian McCaffrey. You brought him up, who is one of the top backs in the league, not only running the football, but as a pass catcher. JJ, what are your thoughts on the 49ers this year, man?
I love the 49ers. They were a quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl last year. If Brock Purdy stays in that game, defensively, they shut down the Eagles the whole game. They just ran away with it at the end with, McCaffrey playing quarterback and just turning the ball over towards the end. But I love the San Francisco 49ers this year. I think they win the Super Bowl. That's my Super Bowl pick. And I think that they run the table and they actually almost go. I think they win about 13, 14 games this year. I'm a big Was that?
Over under is 10.5. So if you're saying 13 or 14, they're going to clear that.
Way over.
And they're again over 10 is -150, so it obviously is a heavy favorite with the under at being +120. The Seattle Seahawks, interesting. We have Geno Smith just signed the 3-year, I believe, $103 million extension, which I thought was interesting. I mean, he had a great year last year. And again, as we know, quarterbacks are hard to come by. The Seahawks over-under is 8.5. Jay, how are you feeling about the Seattle Seahawks this year, led by Geno Smith, who just got that bag in free agency?
I was very shocked at how well he played. Not shocked. I mean, Geno's been in the league for a long time, and given an opportunity finally in a system that he feels good about, he took advantage of it and had a hell of a year. Hats off to him. Can he do it for a second year in a row? He does have the weapons with Lockett and DK Metcalf. So, yeah, I just can't see it happening again. I think 49ers will be good. I think the Rams will be better with Stafford and Cooper Kupp coming back. And there's going to be a lot of tough games Seattle has on their schedule. But I was shocked when he played so well last year. I guess I can't be shocked if he does it again this year, but I think Seattle will be 7-8 wins again this year.
DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and then my Ohio State guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba going over there. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be electric in the NFL and have a fantastic year. JJ, I saw you shaking your head. Are you excited about the Seahawks and those weapons that they have over there?
I think the Jigba, he's going to take the place of Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett's going into his contract year this year, and that's why they got him, because he's going to spread the field. He's fast. We didn't get to see a lot of him last year, unfortunately, but we know how talented he is. You saw him against Utah 2 years ago and tear that defense up. So I do like him. But the Seattle Seahawks as a team, I'm not quite sure, man. I was a big Kenneth Walker fan last year, though. Big Kenneth Walker guy. And I just don't know how they're going to be offensively. And again, they play good defenses all around. They're going to be playing the number 2 team in the NFC this year. So we'll have to see, man. I don't know if I really believe in the Seahawks, but I got burned on it last year. That's for sure.
The one thing about Seattle too is they do have the number 1 home field advantage in the league, so that helps out a lot. That might just waver some of these home games, these close games, into Seattle's favor. Play the great energy there. They play extremely hard, and the crowd really gets into it. So, what is the over under? 8.5? You said.
8.5. Yep.
Yeah, that's a coin flip to me.
Jay, during your time in the NFL, where was your least favorite place to play? Was it the Seahawks, like you just mentioned, with the 12th man? Was it one of the rivals when you were in Washington or in Cincinnati? As a coach, what was your least favorite environment to have to coach in on a Sunday?
And late in the year, it'd be Pittsburgh. It was freezing, and it was so loud, and it was so cold. It was right off that lake. Oh, my God. Or river, whatever it was. Freezing. Miserable. Seattle is loud. You can hardly hear. Actually, we played 2 playoff games when I was with Cincinnati. We played in Houston when Houston was good with J.J. Watt. We had to go on a silent count in pregame warmup. That's how loud it was. You couldn't hear yourself talk to anybody next to you. So noise is a problem for offenses. You know, you got your hand signals and communication. It's such an advantage for defense. They get off on the snap count extremely well. Offense is like struggling to communicate. But the best is when you go on the road and you can hear a pin drop when it's quiet because you're whooping their ass.
Yeah, you gotta love it. I mean, it's great to hear, and it's great insight, you know, for everybody listening as well as everybody, you know, out there in general, NFL fans, because the 12th man is fun. I've been to Seattle once. It is loud. Cleveland fans get loud. Cincinnati fans, I was at the playoff game last year against the Ravens. It gets loud there, and it's a great environment and a great atmosphere. And again, it's got to make it chaotic for that offense, like you mentioned, to be able to operate. The Rams, Jay, I'm going to go to you first because you just mentioned you think they're going to be better with Stafford and Kupp coming back. Their over-under is at just 6.5, and the over is actually plus 100. So plus money if you think they win 7 games or more this year. Jay, how are you feeling about the Rams like you just mentioned?
I feel better that they have their quarterback back in Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's going to catch about 190 balls and probably have 38 carries. I mean, he's a war daddy now. If he stays healthy, they are competitive. They got offensive line's got to play better. They got to play better offensive line. There's got to be another receiver step up. They need somebody to stretch a field badly. Cam Akers has got to continue to get better. He's got to protect the football and continue to run hard and do some better things. I just feel like they're average in a lot of different spots. They're ultra above average in 3 or 4 spots with Cooper Kupp and obviously Stafford and Aaron Donald, and the rest of the team kind of tapers off a little bit. That's the way most teams are, though. So the stars have really got to play well. Aaron Donald's got to dominate the game like he can, and Stafford's got to make great decisions, and Cooper Kupp's got to dominate the game for them to have a chance. And they can do that.
Yeah, they can. Absolutely. You mentioned last week on the first show, if you could start a franchise with one guy, who would it be, not a quarterback? You mentioned Aaron Donald, so we know you love him, and he is a beast, and he can wreck a game at any moment. JJ, thoughts on the Rams over-under against 6.5, and over is plus 100?
I like the over. I think the Rams finished second in the division. I think they finished with a better record than Seattle. Arizona's probably not going to win a division game. They might not even win a game at all. So I'm not really even worried about that. I do think that they hit that over. I don't think that they're going to soar over maybe 8-9 wins. Again, I said that San Francisco is going to be dominant. They're going to win 14, 15 games. They're going to go 6-0 in division. So when you see that happen, you're going to see those teams kind of drift off a little bit. And I think the Rams finish with 8, maybe 9 wins ceiling.
You just said the Cardinals don't maybe not win a game this year. Their over-under is currently 4.5. Some of the clips from camp have been a disaster. I kind of just feel bad for the organization right now. Kyler Murray's not going to be back for a while with the ACL tear last year. JJ, realistically, do you think they don't win a game? Or if you had to set a number today, where are you putting them? Are they the worst team in the league without a doubt this year?
I would go alternate under 1.5. I don't even know what the odds would be for that, but I would take the alternate under 1.5 games won. I did say the Washington Commanders would be.
Yeah, you did say I have the script. They're going to win 2 games to get the first pick. And then 5 minutes later, you say the Cardinals are going to win 0 games.
Why would you go away from
My
Kyler Murray?
God.
Get him, Jay.
Why would you go away from Kyler Murray, though? It doesn't matter. I mean, they finished, if the Redskins finish second or the Commanders finish second, they'll still get Caleb Williams because I don't think that the Cardinals will still go away from Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. Why would you go away from him?
Look at his eyes.
He's not gonna play the first couple games.
If Arizona gets the first pick in the NFL draft next year and they don't take Caleb Williams, there will be a I don't know what. They're going to be people hanging around there getting ready to kill people in Arizona football. They'll take Caleb Williams. I promise you that. Sometimes it happens. There's been other top quarterbacks that have been drafted that didn't quite work out. You move on until you get the guy that works out for your organization. If you draft a guy 3 years, 4 years ago, and then you have another draft pick and you see a guy that you really like, you better take him because that is the guy that runs your franchise. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Ben Roethlisberger. These guys are the guys that turn the key to your car and run your whole entire franchise. And if you get one you like, you'll be coaching for a long time and you'll win a ton of games.
What would you say when you're scouting a quarterback and you see a guy paint his fingernails? Does that go into your scouting report at all?
I don't give a dang what he does. He can do whatever he wants. He take that ball and rip it 60 yards, left-handed, right-handed. I mean, this guy's incredible. I mean, his accuracy, his ability to move. I mean, who knows? Maybe if he gets hit in the NFL by some of these big guys, maybe he will not be as good as I thought. But right now, ultra talent-wise, I mean, you got to take him if he's available.
And Jay, I know this is a touchy subject. And again, teams never, ever, ever try to lose games. But if you are a team like Arizona going into a season where you know you're not going to win a lot of games, obviously, again, this might be just a dumb question because the mindset is obviously to win. But if you can get a guy like Caleb Williams, like you just mentioned, it could absolutely skyrocket your trajectory and change. The franchise could do a complete 360. So late in the season, as a coach, if you're floating around that top pick, is there even the slightest bit of a mindset in the organization where you're like, damn, we're not going to try to lose, but if we do lose games, our franchise could get a massive boost and a jumpstart if we can get a guy like Caleb Williams?
Well, you have to ask Indianapolis. I believe they might have done that back when Andrew Luck was available. I think there were some rumors of some shenanigans there.
Interesting.
Nobody wants to lose a game. These are grown men that you're coaching. You're going to the locker room. You're going to practice. Your meetings with them all day. You're not going to tell these guys, say, we're going to lay down and lose because we want this kid from USC. These guys are going to try to compete. And if they don't compete, then you don't want them on your team either. So, and players see that through coaches, and it is a bad business move if you try to go tell your team you're not going to try to win.
And it's interesting because, again, if they do have a bad year without Kyler Murray and they do get Caleb Williams, what does that mean? What do you think that means? Obviously, they would have to move on from Kyler Murray at that point, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. That's just another piece of draft capital, or you might get a good player or 2 or 3 from Kyler Murray. Somebody might really like Kyler Murray. You get a couple draft picks and a good player. There's nothing wrong with that. And you got Caleb Williams and those draft picks. So, who knows? JJ might be right. Maybe they don't take Caleb Williams. Maybe they take the receiver from Ohio State who's a superstar too. So a lot of different ways you can go. It's early to tell, but I just think if there's a guy with Caleb Williams' talent, no matter who you have on your team, you're probably going to draft him.
100%. And do you think if the Cardinals again are getting down, if Kyler Murray can't come back until the end of the year and they have a bad record, do you think they could just sit him all year to make sure he is 110% right and healthy? That way, if they draft Caleb Williams, they know they can move on from while he's healthy. Or if they don't, on the inverse, and they draft a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., like you just mentioned, they know he can come back 110% healthy the following year if there's only 4 or 5 games left and the season's already over. Do you think they could shift the mindset to let's just sit him out the rest of the year?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. It depends on how the offensive line is playing, how everybody else is playing. You're not going to throw him into a slaughter. Colt McCoy is a good, efficient quarterback. He can run the show in the time being. I've had Colt for a long time. You worry about his health, too. He's been hurt a lot in his career.
Yep.
I don't even know who the third-string quarterback is. Clayton Tune or something like that. So, it's tough. I think if you're a great competitor at the quarterback position, you're going to want to come back, but it'll be up to the trainers, number one. It'll be up to the quarterback, number 2. Actually, quarterback trainers are 1 and 1A, and then the coach obviously will have the final say.
Great back and forth so far about the NFC. And to wrap up today's show, we have one more division to cover, and that is probably the worst division in this conference. The NFC South. You've got Atlanta, you've got New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and you've got Carolina. The Saints are currently the favorites to win this division at plus 125. Over-under is 9.5 games. We know Alvin Kamara just got suspended. Michael Thomas is supposed to come back this year. I feel like I haven't seen him in the last 5 years. Back and forth with him. Jay, let's go back to you, man. How are you feeling about the Saints at plus 125 leaders, front runners to win the division again, and they're over-under at 9.5 in what is probably going to be the worst division in this conference?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division for teams to score a lot of points. I think they do have probably the best roster on paper, though, especially adding Derek Carr. That'll help. That'll help their young receiver. They have a good defense. Marshawn Lattimore still a superstar. They got some guys that can rush the passer. They play at another great home field advantage is New Orleans. Fast turf for those guys, fast track. So I think you look at it roster-wise, top to bottom, I do think they have the best team in the NFC South.
I do have to say, I did see John Gruden came back to mentor Derek Carr a little bit. What are your thoughts on that? Are you excited to see how that develops? And do you think that he can help Derek Carr out in New Orleans?
Oh, he's always willing to help Derek Carr. They have a great relationship. They go way back, obviously, and anything Derek would like to have John do, he will do, and vice versa. So they have great coaches over there. I think it was probably just a 3 or 4 day visit and swapping ideas back and forth before training camp hits or before the regular season hits.
100%. I'm very excited to see how Derek Carr does this year in New Orleans. JJ, over under 9.5 for the Saints. How you feeling?
Man, I don't know. I don't know how big of a believer I am in Derek Carr. But I did like what my dad said last week with Derek Carr throwing it all over the place. I am on Chris Olave's over receiving yards, 1,055.5 yards. I do like that over. But, when you talk about the win total, could they get there? Yeah, defensively they're sound, because that's the only reason why they were in football games last year was because of their defense. I don't think they were laying up many points, and unfortunately they just couldn't move the ball offensively. So looking at it, I still think that's too many games. Double-digit wins in the NFC South period is going to be tough. So I'm going to go under there.
Yeah, again, this division is not going to be very good. I think they're going to win it, but again, you never know. You have the Falcons at plus 200 as the team with the second best odds to win this division. Again, the NFC South, we're currently going over here. Over-under for them is 8.5. I still feel like that's a high total even for the Falcons. Again, I know the division is not good. Jay, how are you feeling about the Falcons this year?
It depends on the quarterback, right, Ritter? How's he do in his second year? They have some weapons, and they have a pretty good running game. Obviously, getting Robinson is going to be huge for them. Yep. They still got Algier from BYU. He's still there, so they can pound the ball. Actually, they have some blocking tight ends. Pitts is a big guy. He can run. Obviously, he needs to step up and play better, get some dang touchdowns, for God's sakes. But they have some talent. They're an interesting team, these dang Atlanta Falcons. And I'd probably be leaning towards the Falcons to win that division if it's not the Saints. I'd probably go Falcons, Saints, very close, and then Carolina, and then Tampa Bay at the bottom. But I'm impressed with what they've done there at Atlanta. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, they added Calais Campbell on that interior defensive line, or the end. They added Jesse Bates in the backfield, or in the secondary, excuse me. They have Jeff Okudah. So they do have some talent. And then you mentioned their tight end room. Jonnu Smith, I love having him there as their tight end too. Drake London as the number one receiver. So, yeah, it's interesting. Looking at the depth chart and looking at the roster, they could be a sneaky, I'm not going to say sneaky good team, but in terms of the division, I could see them, to your point, taking over the Saints and winning that division. And then you have the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young. We touched on him a little bit. Go ahead.
I got to cut you off on this one because this is the first time my dad and I agreed on the whole show today because I love the Falcons this year. And not just to say that they're going to win the division, but if you think that they're going to win the division, I think if they get to 10 wins and they make the playoffs, they win their division, they get to like maybe the second or third seed in the playoffs with those 10 wins. I think you look at the coach of the year betting, you take Arthur Smith to win at 16-1. I think it's a great play. You got Drake London, you got your guy in Bijan Robinson, you got Kyle Pitts. I think that this team is going to shock some people. And I think that style that he had in Tennessee with Arthur Smith, he's going to be able to bring it over there. And Jonnu Smith, man, that's not like going to take your team over the top, but he's familiar with the offense. I think you can do some things with them differently and maybe get Kyle Pitts open. Drake London might have a better year this year.
What Jonnu Smith they'll give him is a tight end that can block the point of attack, which you have to have with a back like Robinson. And that'll help him out. When the reason why he got this job in Atlanta, because he handed the ball to Derrick Henry a lot behind a guy like this who can run the ball. And the play actions will help Ritter a ton. And obviously the talent and the speed of Pitts and London, I mean, these guys will be dangerous. I think they have he's building the team just like they had it at Tennessee. Defensively, probably not quite as good as Tennessee was, but they're getting better.
Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, third team in this division, over under 7.5. As I mentioned, you got Bryce Young. Miles Sanders, they added from Philly at the running back position. They added Adam Thielen. It's always tough for a quarterback to come in his first year and win games in the NFL. Again, over under 7.5. We touched on Bryce Young a little bit last week with C.J. Stroud. I know, Jay, you mentioned you're more of a C.J. Stroud guy. But how do you think the Panthers fare, again, speaking to the over-under being at 7.5 this year with Bryce Young?
I'd probably lean towards the under. Rookie quarterback. He's not very big. It's going to take him some time. He's going to have a lot of help around him. I don't know if they have that offensively. I know they got Thielen and DJ Chark and some other guys, Miles Sanders, but it'll be a struggle for a young quarterback like that, especially more of a pocket-type quarterback. Those guys always take just a little bit more time, in my opinion, and I don't think defensively they're quite good enough to hold up while the offense is struggling. If they had a dominant defense, then sure, I'd say maybe they can hold up and win some games like we did at Cincinnati my first year. We went 9-7. We won a lot of very close, low-scoring games. We didn't turn the ball over. That's the recipe they have to have, and hopefully their defense shows up, but I don't think they're good enough to do that.
JJ, how you feeling about Carolina?
I mean, their defense, they drafted 14 defensive guys in a row when Rule was there, coaching. So hopefully those guys are improving. But I think the Panthers, they hit that win total under. They go under their win total. But I think they're an all fantasy team when you're talking about fantasy football and stats. I love Miles Sanders. I think he's going to have his best year to date in the NFL. I think he's going to rush for over 1,000 yards. I think he's going to play really well because they do have a good offensive line. And then I think that Bryce Young, he's going to rely a lot on Adam Thielen. I think Adam Thielen catches about 8 touchdowns this year minimum. I think they're going to have a good, but I just don't think that they're going to be in enough ball games where I think that they're not going to be able to win. But again, I think those guys do ball out a little bit, but they just don't get to that win total.
They got Chuba Hubbard too. He's going to get some carries.
Chuba Hubbard.
I'm interested to see how Bryce Young develops in his very first year in the NFL. As Jay mentioned, as everybody knows, he is very small, and he is a pocket passer, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he fares in that division and in playing, out of division opponents all year long. And then finally, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Reports so far in camp are not good when it comes to Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. The Buccaneers actually listed both of them as their QB1 on the depth chart, which I thought was pretty freaking hilarious. That just goes to show how they've struggled so far in camp and how they're unsure. I believe they announced Baker Mayfield is going to start their first preseason game, and then Kyle Trask will start their second. Jay, it's going to be tough, but they do have talent, right? They have the linebackers, they have receivers, Godwin and Mike Evans, as we know. But the most important thing in the NFL, it's like beating a dead horse. They have to have a quarterback that can deliver them the football. How are you feeling about Tampa Bay this year, Jay?
Not good. Not good. Might play Rachaad White's over screen pass catches that he's going to catch because they can't throw the ball. I'm sorry. It's just there's no chance. If you don't have a quarterback, if you have a quarterback controversy between Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield, it's going to be a long year. I mean, I've been through it. It's tough. I have nothing against Baker. Baker's a tough guy, and Kyle's done some good things too. But they're not good enough to compete on a 17-week game season and win you more than about 4 games. I mean, they'll get you a sneak you by and throw a Hail Mary or something like that, win you 3 or 4, but over a 17-game slate, not a chance, unless they're winning games 6-3, 9-7.
If you're the head coach today, you had to make your decision. Are you starting Baker Mayfield or Kyler Trask week 1?
Whichever one gets me to 0 wins so I can get Caleb Williams. There's another one. They're going to be in contention for that pick too, in my opinion. Washington, Arizona, Tampa. I mean, it's going to be a battle.
Wait, so you heard my script. You heard my script already. So if you had to say select what the next year's draft order is going to be based on record, where do you see the top 5 going?
Arizona, Tampa, Washington are my top 3.
Okay.
Just right off the top of my head. I haven't really studied
all
that.
NFC teams too. All NFC teams.
Yeah, which is not good. So maybe throw in AFC's pretty stout, right?
I know they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
If you're talking,
Patriots?
No, hell no.
If you're talking AFC bottom feeders again off the top of your head, you probably have the Texans are in there.
Texans would be in there.
The Colts, yeah. So again, it's going to be fun. I love off the top of your head top 3. It's going to be interesting because if they can manage to keep all those guys happy, because we can't deny, right? They do have some talent outside of the quarterback position. If there's one place I would like to see Caleb Williams go, again, if they can keep Mike Evans, if they can keep Chris Godwin, if they can keep the linebackers that they have, I think Caleb Williams would be pretty fun to see in Tampa Bay next year if they can make that happen. JJ, how are you feeling? We know your dad had some strong opinions.
This one's kind of crazy too to think about. Don't forget, in the draft this past season, they traded with the Houston Texans. They got their pick this year. So if the Texans finish in the bottom 5, they get 2 top 5 picks. They could go after Caleb Williams. They can go after Marvin Harrison Jr. if they wanted to. And then they can move Kyler Murray and then bring some money into them too.
Imagine that. They could have the first 2 picks. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be
crazy. Yeah. Back to back. It would be absolutely insane. They could totally have a different season next year. And we could be talking about a Cardinal team in a totally different way. So that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's a great point. Over under 6.5 on the Bucs. Are you going to go under then, JJ?
Oh, under.
Yeah, minus 143. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I definitely think they soar under. We appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 2, full NFC betting preview. A couple more weeks of the preseason. This weekend is the first full weekend of preseason. So again, next week we'll recap some of the preseason games, talk about how the action went with some of the rookies and some of the guys getting their shots. As we close here, I'm going to start with you, JJ. Who's winning? I think you said it earlier, but I'm going to go to you guys, both you guys. Who wins the NFC this year as we stand here today? Who wins the
San
NFC?
Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers is going to be the 49ers-Eagles rematch, NFC Championship game. The 49ers get their revenge. They go to the Super Bowl.
Jay, who wins the NFC?
Eagles. Eagles win. It'll be tight between Eagles and Cowboys.
Wow, interesting. 2 teams from the same division, the NFC East. I'm going to go Eagles as well. I think they do get back there. But again, NFC is going to be fun. AFC is going to be fun. We appreciate We appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Again, weekly show. If you're new, download the BetCheck app if you are in Ohio. We have a fantastic promotion coming here soon for the new football season coming up. Some exciting news as far as the app goes on this coming season. So again, make sure you guys do download BetCheck, Ohio Sportsbook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out Jay's Twitter and social medias as he continues to build them up. As you guys know, JJ taking the points. He's out there on socials. But we do appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next week.